Alright you guys, so for this week's video, I'm going to be telling you a list of things that you absolutely need to have when you attend Tucson 2023 next year. I was so lost on what to bring to Tucson because when I went earlier this year, it was my very first time attending the gem show. So I had no idea what to bring and what paperwork you need. So I was completely lost. So I really would have loved a resource like this. So I made a list for you guys on things to not forget to bring to Tucson 2023. I did have a friend give me a list of things as well. Jen from Earth Prescribed. She's my girl. She's been to Tucson before. So she gave me a lot of recommendations on this list. So after her list and my experience, these are the things you 100% need to bring to Tucson. So one of the first things you're gonna need, in my opinion, is a car. Because if you don't have a car, it's gonna be really hard for you to get around. Now, some of the hotels do offer free transportation to the gem shows, but having a car is such an asset because that way you can jump from show to show because it's not all in one location. The Tucson Gem Show is spread out all over the city of Tucson, so you definitely need a vehicle to go from spot to spot. Also, having a pretty big vehicle to be able to store your inventory that you purchase in is key. So highly recommend renting a car, or if you're going with a friend, renting a car in between the two of you. If you don't have a car, it's gonna be a little bit difficult to get around. The next thing you're gonna need, which I wish I would have brought, but I ended up not bringing it because I was flying there, but if you are driving to Tucson, Arizona, highly recommend bringing a wagon. One of those little collapsible wagons that has the big chunky wheels that you can put all of your inventory in. I will link the one that I purchased down below. It's really big, and when you are buying a ton of crystals, you do not want to be hauling them around, especially if you're only there for a short period of time. And some parking lots are right at the gem show and some are like a massive hike. So having that wagon will save your back in the long run. So I highly recommend bringing a wagon with chunky wheels. The next thing you're gonna definitely need to do is book a hotel or an Airbnb. You can do this last minute. I did book my hotel less than a week from when I was headed to Tucson. There are definitely openings available if you decide to go last minute, but you will pay a pretty penny. Even for me to stay for 4 nights and 5 days, it was $1,500. So it gets really expensive, and a lot of the Tucson hotel rooms are being taken up by the shows. So just keep in mind that it's a little bit hard to find something right in the heart and center. Though I stayed at the Tucson Hotel, and that was a central location around all of the shows. The furthest show away was 5 minutes and the closest one was walking distance. So highly recommend staying there if you can afford it, but there are tons of options outside of the Tucson that you can stay at for the gem show. And keep in mind the gem show goes on for an entire month. So there'll be people coming at the beginning of the show, the middle of the show, or the end of the show. So there should always be places to stay depending on when you want to go. But remember, a lot of vendors who are staying the entire month have a lot of those hotel rooms already booked up. So if you can, 100% book in advance. Another thing you're gonna want to bring is lots of drinking water. It is very dry in Arizona, and there isn't a lot of places to purchase water at the gem shows because there sometimes are food trucks, but they have really long lines. So highly recommend bringing 2 to 3 bottles of water in a backpack so you can stay hydrated, because you're on your feet going all day long, and you definitely need to make sure you don't get dehydrated with how dry Tucson is. Another thing I highly recommend bringing is some kind of battery pack for your phone, because a lot of people there go to Tucson and actually do live shows, live stream, or filming while they're there, or even just taking photos of things you see, taking photos of business cards. Your phone battery will drain very quickly. Now, I have the iPhone 13 and I actually was able to get away with filming all day, taking photos, taking social media clips, and my battery did not die, but I did have an extra battery pack. So if you have anything older than an iPhone 13, or you're planning on doing any kind of live shows, any kind of documentation while you're there, any kind of social media videos, you definitely want to have a backup battery, because if your phone dies, you are SOL. And a lot of times some of the vendors take payment by phone, and if your phone dies, you cannot pay them. So definitely make sure you are bringing bringing backup phone batteries and making sure you're charging them every single night. So this is a big one, and I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of questions about this one, but your tax forms. So the Tucson Gem Show no longer allows EIN numbers as a form of tax to allow you to buy resale product. You need to have a resale certificate, you need to have a certain tax form for your state, and they're all different, you guys, so you can't necessarily just Google it. You'll need to go on your state's website and figure out which form you need to bring to be able to buy wholesale there. So the wholesale certificate allows you to purchase things tax-free. So instead of paying taxes on all of the crystals you're buying, you will not have to pay the taxes on that as long as you are looking to resell them. So like I said, each state is going to be different. You're going to have to look up which one on your state's website is the right form to use. This was super confusing to me because I had no idea which form I needed to be able to purchase. So definitely do your research. Do not save this for last minute, because if you get on a plane and don't have those tax forms, there could be a risk of you not being able to purchase from certain vendors. Now, most wholesale vendors who are there, who are out of country, do not require tax certificates or tax resale forms. So if you are exclusively buying from vendors who don't require that, great, but there are a big chunk of vendors who do require those wholesale exemption forms. So make sure you do your research before you go. Definitely bring several copies. I was recommended to bring 10 copies, and no one actually ever took it to keep, but they did jot it down and refer to it. I probably had half the vendors ask for the tax exemption form, both international and domestic wholesalers. So make sure you bring it, make sure you have it properly filled out, make sure you're registered in your state before you even get on the plane and book your tickets. The other thing you're gonna wanna bring is lots of cash. Now, I know that sounds a little like scary to carry around lots of cash, but that's the reality, that a lot of the international wholesalers only take cash. So be very cognizant of that. And before you decide to purchase something, ask the supplier what form of payment they take, so you know how much cash you need to take out, or if they're willing to accept Zelle, which is another form of a bank transfer that's very secure, or if they'll take a regular credit card. Now, most of the time with credit cards, they will charge you the 3 to 4% transaction fee, so just keep that in mind. You're gonna wanna have cash for parking lots, because guess what? They do charge you to park. Not everywhere, but most places do charge you to park, and they only accept cash. You're gonna wanna have cash for wholesale suppliers who can't take credit card payments while they're there because of tax purposes, and you're gonna wanna have cash for food, drink, or anything else. You also wanna make sure you have cash over when you leave to tip the hotel. The next thing, which is a no-brainer that you're gonna wanna have, is super comfortable shoes. I made the mistake of bringing cuter shoes, and I literally couldn't make it through day one, so I did end up bringing my more controversial Crocs, and those saved my life because the paths super uneven, super dirty, and there's gravel everywhere, there's dust everywhere, like your shoes are gonna get dirty. So you want shoes that are super comfortable and easy to walk in, because these tents and how they're set up are set up directly on the pavement. So if there's a hole in the ground, they just set the tent up over top of it. Lots of uneven ground, it's easy to trip over stuff, everything's outside. Yes, there's some stuff in hotels, but comfortable shoes 100%. Crocs worked for me for the 5 days that I was there. The next thing you 100% need is the Tucson Gem Show app. I had no idea that there was an app, and I don't remember how I figured that out, but the app will literally save you so much time. So you just download the Tucson app, it's free. I have an iPhone and it was available on iPhone. I'm pretty sure it's probably available on Samsung too. I will link it down below so you guys can just go ahead and download it so you have it. You can check out all the shows, where all the shows' addresses are, what they sell, the times they're open. It literally has everything on there, and it maps out how far all the shows are, so you can be really strategic when planning out which shows you want to go to instead of trying to look up all the addresses for all the shows. So that's how I found out that my hotel was in the center of all the shows, is when I went to go book my hotel. I looked up where it was on the app, and boom, it was in the middle of all of the shows. So that's why I decided to stay at the Tucson, and highly, highly, highly recommend the app. It'll make your trip so much easier, and of course it's free. The next thing I'd recommend is honestly a pretty large budget. You can go to Tucson with any budget, of course, but I highly recommend at least bringing $5,000 if you are buying wholesale, because that money will go so fast. It's shocking how much money you can spend when you're there. So of course, like, you can go with $1,000, you can go with $500, you can go with $150. It just won't get you very far, and the longer you're there, the more money you will spend. So keep that in mind when you're booking. If you're going for 5 days, you probably want to bring anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. If you're going for less time, you're going for only 2 or 3 days, I definitely still would bring a substantial amount of money. It's very easy to spend $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 while you're there. So bring as much as you can. Start saving up now. So the other thing you really need to make sure you're doing is having some kind of plan. So making sure you know what shows you're hitting on what days. You definitely don't want to go there without a plan, because you will end up missing things or spending too long in certain places and not being able to see all of the shows. I am gonna make another video on which shows you must see and which ones are maybe worth skipping. So I will definitely have that video up, and I will link it in this video once it's live. But hopefully it'll help you figure out what shows to go to. But definitely make sure you're planning out how many shows you want to hit per day so you're efficient and you're not missing anything. Plus, you want to figure out how far the shows are away so you're not wasting time driving around lost in going from show to show. So the next thing you're gonna want to bring is 2 forms of ID. Now, most shows don't require any ID, but there are some shows that are a little bit more exclusive that have more expensive merchandise who do require 2 forms of ID. So make sure you have 2 forms of picture ID with you that are government issued, whether it's a passport or a driver's license. Just make sure you have 2 forms of ID, or you may be denied entry to those shows. Another thing that you can do ahead of the shows is pre-register to purchase wholesale from certain vendors. Now, like I said, there are so many vendors, it's impossible to apply for wholesale for everything, but there are certain shows that allow you to apply for wholesale registration before the show, and that makes it a lot quicker when you go to register, and you won't have to wait in those long lines. So if you can, do your wholesale registration ahead of time. Lots of shows don't require any wholesale registration and are completely open to the public, but there are some exclusive shows there that 100% do require wholesale registration before you enter. The next thing that you're gonna want to bring that I really wish I would have brought is a mini scale. It's almost like one of those scales that people who sell drugs carry around. That's the kind of scale you're gonna want, because they don't have scales readily available, and not everything is priced out. Actually, most things are not priced out. There are no price tags on anything. It all goes by weight. So you're definitely gonna want to have a scale so you can check how much the weight of each thing is before you purchase it. This came in handy when I was purchasing the high-grade aquamarine and kunzite. I could weigh each piece and do the math quickly in my head, so I knew what to expect when I was paying. If I didn't do that, I would have been really, really shocked at the price. So you can ask the wholesale supplier, what is the price? Is it per kilo? Is it per gram? And then quickly do the math in your head so you know what you're gonna pay. Because most sellers don't have prices on anything, and the last thing you want to do is pick out a bunch of pieces, walk up to them and say, hi, I would like to purchase these, and then they tell you it's $3,000. So just bring a scale so you kind of are more aware. Some vendors do have scales that you can use while you're there. Some have the mini scales and some have the big scales, and they're happy to help you with the pricing. And of course, you can always take stuff away if you realize you added too much stuff to your basket, but bringing a mini scale just helps so you don't have to share scales with everybody else, because the booths that did have scales, you are kind of sharing them with other people. So highly recommend bringing a little scale. I will link one down below on Amazon that you can purchase ahead of the show. So the next thing you're gonna want to bring is a UV flashlight, and just a flashlight in general. There were so many days that were cloudy and overcast and I couldn't see the crystal's true color. This was true with any kind of rainbow obsidian, any kind of UV reactive light. It was just really good to be able to have that flashlight with me. I totally forgot to bring mine the first day, and I had to go back with my flashlight the next day to recheck and repurchase everything because I didn't have it that first day. So definitely bring a flashlight. Better if you have one with a UV light on it, just so you can check the UV reaction reflection or see the true color if you don't have good lighting. The next thing you're for sure not gonna wanna miss is bringing business cards. A lot of shows require that you have some sort of business card to prove that you own a business, regardless of having an EIN or a tax ID. So make sure you're bringing plenty of business cards. Some wholesalers require you to have a business card to hold items for you. So bring plenty of business cards. It doesn't hurt to have them, and several people ask for them, so don't forget those. Another great thing to bring is a business card holder, because every single supplier you meet or are interested in working with in the future, you definitely want to pick up their card. So get a business card holder so you can put them in as you are gathering them, so they're not all over your backpack or all over your purse and getting lost in the shuffle of all the receipts that you're getting. So make sure to bring that business card holder so you have a place to put all of those business cards you get of all of those amazing suppliers that you're gonna meet. So the next thing you're gonna want to bring is for sure a notepad and pens or pencils, whatever your preferred writing utensil is, because it gets very chaotic when you're buying stuff and you don't remember who you bought stuff from and what their shop was, which business card theirs was. It just, you forget, especially if you're there for a long time. I had to come back and piece together who I bought things from, and I really wish I just would have wrote it down on the back of their business card so I knew exactly what I bought from them. Some it's very obvious. If you're buying something from India and you only bought from one Indian shop, it's really easy to remember. But if you're buying from 10 to 15 shops, it can get really confusing, and it definitely helps to write down what they're selling, because whether it's someone you purchase from or someone you plan on purchasing from in the future, it's definitely helpful to document all of that while it's fresh in your head, because when you get home you will forget, or at least I did. The next thing is definitely a nice to have and not a need to have, but a mini portable chair that you can fold up and put in your purse, because Tucson is huge. There are not a lot of places to sit down. You do get very fatigued and exhausted, especially going on day 4 and day 5. So having a little mini chair to sit on is super helpful. I did end up bringing mine, and I actually didn't end up using it because my hotel was so close to everything. If I was feeling exhausted or tired, I would just get back in my car, go back to the hotel room for an hour, lay down and relax, and then go and get back out there. So another reason why it's good to have a car in a centrally located hotel, because you'll be able to go back to your room and rest. It was also awesome because I could walk to a lot of the shows, and if I got tired I could just go back. And you could go to the shows literally anytime you wanted when you had a car in a hotel room. So if you don't have a hotel room or accommodations that aren't close by, bring a mini chair, because then you can sit down and take a break, especially if you're doing super long days, 12-hour days. It definitely helps to have a place to sit down. So that is everything I have for this video. Hopefully this was super helpful for when you're in Tucson in 2023. I definitely could have used a list like this before I went, because there were so many things I didn't even think to bring, especially things like the tax ID and the flashlight and the portable chair and the wagon. So many things I wouldn't even think to bring. So hopefully this video is helpful for you when you're planning your Tucson trip. Make sure to plan well in advance, and I know you'll have the best time because it was one of the best experiences of my life. And make sure to keep an eye out for that video on which shows are hits and which shows you could maybe miss. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe down below, and make sure to turn on post notifications so you don't miss when I post a video. And I will see you guys next week. Bye! I'd like to give a special thank you to all of my Patreon members. If you are looking for exclusive business advice, consider joining us. We have 3 tiers available, and you can get all the business advice you need for just $10 a month and access to an exclusive Crystal community. You'll get the opportunity to network with other shops, make friends, and join me in the Discord. Everything is linked in my description box. See you there.